When the Ten Commandments was released in 1956, it wasn't just a movie, it was a massive cinematic event. Directed by the legendary CecilBDemille, this film became one of the largest and most expensive productions of its time. What's crazy is that Paramount Studios was actually terrified to fund it. Demille had already made a silent version of the same story back in 1923, but this time he wanted something grander than anything Hollywood had ever seen. The studio feared the cost, which ballooned to over $13 million, an enormous figure for that era. To put it into perspective, that's over $150 million today. Yet Demille convinced them by promising it would be a religious epic for the ages. His confidence wasn't misplaced. The movie went on to make around $122 million worldwide, becoming one of the highest-grossing films of its decade. But here's the weird part. Despite being such a massive success, Demille almost didn't finish it. During filming in Egypt, the director, who was 75 years old, suffered a heart attack on set. He returned to work just 2 days later, against medical advice, claiming God wouldn't let me die until this movie is done. That kind of dedication and stubbornness made the film legendary even before its release. One of the most memorable symbols in the Ten Commandments is Moses' staff, the wooden rod that miraculously parts the Red Sea. But the origin of that prop is a story in itself. Demille wanted the staff to look ancient and mystical, so he ordered a team of artists to craft it from a 2,000-year-old olive tree imported from the Middle East. Whether the tree was truly that old remains debated, but the staff's realistic design helped make the miracles look authentic on screen. Here's the spooky, twistering filming of the Red Sea scene. Several crew members claimed the staff emitted a static-like energy whenever they handled it. Some even refused to touch it afterward. To add to the weirdness, after the movie wrapped, the staff mysteriously disappeared from the Paramount warehouse. It was never officially found, and no one knows whether it was stolen, lost, or hidden away by the studio. To this day, film historians consider it one of Hollywood's greatest missing props, right up there with the original Maltese Falcon. Might think Charlton Heston was the obvious choice to play Moses, but he wasn't. In fact, several big names turned down the role first, including Marlon Brando and Burt Lancaster. Demille finally chose Heston because he resembled Michelangelo's famous statue of Moses and because his deep voice carried authority. But that's not the weirdest part. Just before filming began, Heston's wife found out she was pregnant, and the baby was due right around the same time as the film's release. Demille saw it as a divine sign. He even joked that the baby would arrive with a message from God. Strangely enough, the child grew up to play baby Moses in the movie. Yes, Charlton Heston's real son, Fraser Heston, appears in the basket floating down the Nile. Talk about keeping it in the family. Some of the actors also developed strange superstitions during filming. Yul Brynner, who played Pharaoh Ramesses, refused to take off a small Egyptian charm he wore under his costume, saying it protected him from bad luck on set. Several crew members followed suit, wearing amulets and crosses during the dangerous desert shoots. While the Ten Commandments was shot mostly in Egypt and California, the desert scenes were incredibly tough to film. The cast endured scorching heat, dehydration, and yes, real sandstorms. During one major sequence, a storm hit unexpectedly, blowing away expensive props and burying several cameras. Strangely, some crew members swore that the storm happened right after someone jokingly recited a line mocking Moses' miracles. After that, the team grew eerily quiet whenever shooting religious scenes. Even more bizarrely, a few Egyptian locals refused to work on the production, saying the land where they were filming was cursed. They claimed ancient spirits were angered because the filmmakers were pretending to be gods. Whether it was superstition or coincidence, the set truly felt cursed for a while. Later, when the crew returned to Los Angeles to film the Red Sea parting sequence, several of them caught mysterious fevers that doctors couldn't explain. Some started to call it the curse of the commandments. Of course, Demille brushed it off, saying, "Every great story must fight its demons." One of the greatest movie moments ever created is the parting of the Red Sea. But in 1956, There were no CGI effects or digital editing tools. Everything had to be done practically. So how did they pull off the miracle? The answer is pure movie magic. The Red Sea wasn't real water, right? Was a massive tank filled with gelatin and dyed blue. The film crew shot footage of it pouring backward, then reversed it in editing to make it look like the water was splitting apart. Each frame had to be hand-tinted and carefully synchronized with the actors. It took nearly 6 months to complete that single sequence. Another secret. The walls of water were actually shot from 2 different angles and combined later in post-production, using a method so advanced that even modern directors like Steven Spielberg have praised it as perfect practical effects. What's stranger is that DeMille refused to reveal the full technique while he was alive. He wanted audiences to believe it truly was a miracle captured on film. To this day, many film schools study that scene as one of the most creative visual effects ever made without computers. Behind the scenes, The Ten Commandments was not as peaceful as the story it told. The production sparked heated debates among Hollywood insiders about religion. Some studio executives feared the movie would offend non-Christian audiences, while others wanted it to be a strong religious statement. DeMille tried to stay neutral, insisting it was a story for all faiths. But during filming, arguments often broke out between actors and advisors about biblical accuracy. Charlton Heston, who is known for his strong opinions, reportedly got into a shouting match with a historical consultant over how Moses should raise the tablets. Another actor refused to say certain lines, claiming they weren't scripturally correct. Things got so tense that DeMille had to call in a real rabbi and a Catholic priest to mediate. It was the first time Hollywood officially had a religious board supervising a movie set. Ironically, that mix of faiths may have helped the film connect with such a wide audience. Whether you are Christian, Jewish, or simply a fan of big cinema, the Ten Commandments spoke to universal ideas about freedom and belief. If you've ever watched the Ten Commandments closely, you might have noticed strange details hidden in the background. For instance, in one desert scene, there's a quick shot where a pillar in Pharaoh's palace looks like the shape of a modern skyscraper, an intentional nod by DeMille to the towers of modern sin. He loved adding visual metaphors that symbolized the clash between faith and ego. Another hidden secret involves Moses' robe colors. The blue and red garments symbolize his dual identity as both Egyptian royalty and Hebrew prophet. But perhaps the weirdest Easter egg is during the final scene where Moses descends from Mount Sinai. For a split second, you can see what looks like DeMille's own shadow appear beside him. Many believe the director intentionally walked into the shot as a symbolic gesture, representing the voice of God guiding Moses. Though it's never been confirmed, that tiny shadow has sparked debates among film fans for decades. Few people know that some of the props in the Ten Commandments weren't just Hollywood creations, they were based on real, ancient designs. DeMille sent researchers to museums in Cairo, London, and Jerusalem to study authentic artifacts. Some of the jewelry worn by the actresses, for instance, was crafted using techniques that hadn't been used for thousands of years. Even more surprising, several props used in the movie later appeared in museums as replicas of biblical artifacts only for experts to discover they were so well made that they could be mistaken for genuine ancient items. The line between movie magic and historical truth blurred completely. Decades later, archaeologists exploring near Mount Sinai claimed to find a small stone tablet eerily similar to the ones seen in the film. While there's no proof they're related, conspiracy theorists insist that some movie props were secretly buried on location and rediscovered years later. After its release, the Ten Commandments became much more than a movie. It became a cultural monument. Every Easter and Passover season, TV networks across the world still air it, keeping its spirit alive for new generations. But here's something most people don't know. When Cecil B. DeMille died in 1959, part of his gravestone was carved to resemble the tablets of Moses. It's said that he considered the movie his final commandment to mankind. Even Charlton Heston admitted years later that the role changed his life forever, saying, "I didn't just play Moses, I met him." The film's influence stretched far beyond Hollywood. From religious debates to filmmaking innovations, the Ten Commandments continues to inspire discussions almost 70 years later. And maybe that's the strangest fact of all. A movie made with old cameras and no computers still feels just as powerful today as it did in 1956. Anne Baxter, who played Nefertari, was known for her graceful looks and powerful acting, but she faced a weird problem on set. During early test screenings, audiences complained that her voice didn't sound royal enough. CecilBDemille, always the perfectionist, ordered her to take voice lessons to make her tone deeper and more commanding. Strangely, after a few weeks of training, Baxter's voice started to change permanently. Her friends said she began speaking in a dramatic, almost queen-like tone, even off-camera. It got so intense that some people joked she was possessed by Nefertari. But here's the weirdest twist: when the film's audio was being edited, DeMille secretly used an uncredited opera singer to dub a few of Baxter's lines. To this day, even film experts can't tell exactly where Baxter's voice ends and the singer's begins. It's one of Hollywood's best-kept dubbing mysteries, and it shows how far DeMille went to achieve the perfect illusion of divinity and authority in his film, the famous Red Sea. Parting scene wasn't just hard to film, it was downright dangerous. During one of the takes, the studio's water tank malfunctioned, and thousands of gallons of water were released too soon. A cameraman standing close to the tank was nearly swept away. Luckily, he managed to climb onto a scaffolding in time. But the water destroyed several cameras and flooded part of the set. The accident delayed production for 2 weeks and cost the studio thousands of dollars in repairs. Despite this, DeMille insisted they keep shooting practical effects instead of switching to miniatures. His reason? He wanted audiences to feel the weight of God's power. That risky dedication paid off. The sequence became one of the most breathtaking visuals in film history, but crew members never forgot how close it came to being a disaster. Some even joked that Moses really did part the sea, but he almost parted the cameraman. 2. When the Israelites flee Egypt in the movie, you see hundreds of animals: camels, sheep, oxen, and even birds traveling through the desert. Those animals weren't CGI, of course. They were real. And managing them turned into one of the strangest production challenges ever. The film's animal wrangler, Bill Pankow, had to control over 2,500 animals during the shoot in Egypt. Many of them refused to cooperate, especially the camels, which kept sitting down in the sand and refusing to move. To make them stand, handlers had to bribe them with dates and figs. Even funnier, several scenes had to be refilmed because goats would suddenly wander into the shot and eat the set decorations made of straw. The biggest nightmare came when an ox broke loose during a take and nearly trampled one of the extras. After that, DeMille ordered all animals to be double-tied and supervised by multiple wranglers. By the end of production, the crew called it Noah's Ark on caffeine. Costumes played a massive role in the Ten Commandments, but few people know how symbolic they were. Designer Edith Hedges, the same woman who later inspired Edna Mode from the incredible spent months studying ancient Egyptian art, she believed every color should tell part of the story. For example, Moses wears red early in the film to symbolize power and passion, then shifts to blue to represent faith and peace as he transforms spiritually. Nefertari's costumes, dripping with gold and jewels, were designed to mirror her pride and vanity. But here's the strangest part. Some of the fabrics used were supposedly blessed by Egyptian priests before filming. Paramount hired local tailors who brought in traditional materials, and rumor has it, one robe had real gold threads woven into it. After the movie's release, that same robe went missing, just like Moses' staff. Some believe it was stolen by a crew member, while others claim it was secretly sold to a private collector. Either way, that blessed costume has never resurfaced, adding yet another layer of mystery to the film's legacy. Charlton Heston's portrayal of Moses remains iconic, but his transformation for the role was both physical and emotional. During the filming of the burning bush scene, the crew used an intense light effect to mimic divine fire. Heston had to stare directly into that brightness for multiple takes, and as a result, he developed eye irritation that lasted weeks. Ironically, When Moses returns from Mount Sinai, with his face glowing, that irritation made Heston's eyes naturally red and glassy, making the scene even more realistic. But Heston also